Thanks for coming to my session. I'm the first one there today. There's a lot of good people presenting at this time. It's a pretty nice spot. Glad you guys made it here on time and can spend some time with me talking about different tips to optimize your website. So I am Justin Rondeau. I'm the chief editor and testing evangelist over at WhichTestWon.com. And at WhichTestWon, we write a weekly publication that shows a new case study of an A/B or multivariate test that we actually let you vote on to see which one won, thus the name, and actually get some expert insight as well as to why those results occurred. So really, who I am is I'm an industry analyst of companies who run A/B or multivariate tests, and I'm a hands-on trainer. I run different advanced training workshops around the country and am often frequent many different conferences as well to talk about this topic. Now, here's a question. I should have waited before I showed this slide, but who actually runs A/B or multivariate tests currently on your site? Raise them high and raise them proud. Okay. Who knows what A/B and multivariate testing is? Okay, so everybody knows it. It's just a matter of not everybody is really doing it. And I'm hoping today I can show you, one, why you should be doing it, and then giving you some great ideas for how you can start doing this on your own site. So for those of you who didn't raise your hand, how A/B testing works is it's really, really simple. You have two different competing versions, your version A and your version B, and you run it on a particular traffic source coming in, and we can talk about segmentation methods later on. And you take a look at you have a specific goal in mind. So say version A is to increase sales in a cart, and version B is that same page with minor variations. Whichever one wins out in terms of that goal is the one you should implement site-wide. So you're running a small test on your traffic, sometimes split 50-50, sometimes split 33, 33, 33, or however you want to look at it. And we can talk about then also some more methodologies for segmentation as well. And I also want to bring up that, as you saw in here, most web pages and emails are only really designed by the marketer's gut, different pre-formatted templates, by copying competitors, or even following standard best practices. And best practices, they exist for a reason, because they've worked in the past, but it may not work for your target audience. So you need to keep this in mind. Just because one particular either blog layout or product page layout works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You need to really hyper-focus on the traffic coming into your site. And as we saw here, not everybody's testing, so they're not running, making data-driven decisions based off of testing. Here's another example here of how many marketers actually use tests to optimize their response rates. We have where's my clicker? I lost it already? I lost my clicker. It's over there. So I'm not going to be moving now. All right, but right there we have on the right-hand graph is actually marketers who run A/B tests on their email campaigns. It's around 45% of marketers actually do this. And further on the left, you'll see marketers who run A/B or multivariate tests. Thank you. A/B or multivariate tests on their web pages. That's about 35%. Email marketers, I think, get a better understanding of what A/B and multivariate testing is, just because they're used to segmenting their lists and slicing their lists and sending the right messages to the right people, whereas web marketers are a little slow on putting this within their own sites. So we're going to start by looking at 6 different tips that I have for you today, and the first 2 are pretty standard, and it's just really with test smart. You really have to select the right page and get really good at selecting the right pages to test. So first, you want to start identifying pages here. Here's just some pages from our site. I mean, we have our on-demand webinar sections. Change that. We have our webinar sections. We have our stories, our home page, our thank you pages. We have all sorts of different stuff to take a look at. And here are the first 2 questions you should really be asking yourself as you're looking for new pages to test. And that's, do the pages get enough traffic to reach statistical significance in a reasonable time frame? And does the page directly affect your conversion rate? And then this is where your methodology will be changing. If yes, say it's a page, a shopping cart, or a form field on an actual lead generation form, you know the actual value of that conversion rate almost immediately if you've done that work and understanding the lifetime value of your customer. And then also, if it's not a page that directly affects conversions, you have to start thinking, well what's the long-term conversion value, and how does this fit in within the grand scheme of our conversion path. All right, so there's tons of opportunity to start testing. You have, like, say, for lead generation sites, we have our entry pages, we have our offer pages, we have the different particular form fields that you can take a look at. Your thank you and follow-up pages are some of the best pages you can start testing on right away, because you have people who are already excited about your site or your product or your brand. They've already signed in, and those follow-ups and thank yous are a great way to get that return traffic to your site again. So that's a great place to start testing. And then we can kind of go the e-commerce route as well. You have your entry pages, and then kind of your mid-funnel pages with your category pages, search result pages, your product pages. Move into the cart and checkout. And then also, again, remember those receipt and thank you pages. That's one of the best times to really reconnect with your customers and turn them from a one-time buyer or a one-time user of your website into somebody that's actually really a brand evangelist and a regular visitor. Here is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make all the time when they start testing, and that's they go after pages with the high abandon and bounce rates. And that's a red flag right there. Stop. Don't start there, because those are pretty much kind of garbage pages to begin with, and getting a lift of 35% on a page that converts maybe 1% is still not all that great as compared to some other pages that could be better optimized. So don't start with the abandon and bounce rates. You want to really start diving deep and looking at the really higher converting pages that you want to convert or to optimize, and really do this and start with the money. So don't go after the high bounce rate in those pages, because those are holes you can plug later. If you really want to start seeing some dollars and cents from using testing and conversion rate optimization, start where the money is. Where I'd generally like to see people start, and there's tons of debate on whether you start at the beginning of the conversion funnel or you start at the end. I prefer to start at the end of the funnel. Start where the money is closest to being made. So in some cases, the thank you and receipt pages, that's even really after the money is already made. You can start looking at your carts as well, and maybe the cart selection process, or the different messages on maybe your lead generation forms or anything there. So here's an example of a cart test. And my session isn't just going to be, yip-yapping at you guys right now, because that's not fun for me. Actually, I kind of like my own voice, but I think it's fun to have you guys jump in on the game as well. So we have two tests here. We have an A up here and a B down here. The only difference between these two pages is they added a static cross-sell here. And so that cross-sell isn't dynamically generated based on the items in your cart. It's really a product of the week. So they have that here, and then they kind of push after some more white space, and they're trying to get some more, just kind of clean up the cart a little bit. Who thinks that this one right here, the A version, who thinks the A version increased conversion rates? Increased, I believe it was either revenue per value. Well, I'll show you when we get the results, but I think it's revenue per visitor or even revenue itself. Who thinks A increased it? Raise your hands. Okay. And who thinks B with the product of the week static sale in there? We see, keep them up. Okay. It was kind of split through the room, which I was actually kind of surprised about. And the winner, that was just a little highlight of what's changed. And the winner is actually the one that went after the white space and kind of got rid of that extra sale with a 3.6% lift in revenue per visitor. This was run by the brand Three Suisses. This is a French apparel site. They used this agency called Ultima to help them with this, using the testing technology, Evangelist. And this is, I think, a really interesting test for people who kind of are in they came from the brick and mortar background of working in stores, and they have those sales that they have to get these things out. They have too much of the product, and they'll say it's a product of the week, or we just need to push this product out of the store itself. So they thought probably by having that product of the week there, regardless of what's in the cart, it's not going to affect the revenue, and it actually might increase revenue per visitor because they might even toss it in their cart. But let's put it in context. That was a picture of a blouse. If I'm a guy on their site buying manly clothes, I'm not going to put a blouse in the cart. I'm not their perfect market for that. If they had tried maybe a dynamic tool where they could put in different products based on what's in your cart already, they might have seen, it would have been, one, a different test, and two, probably had drastically different results, which would be something also worth testing. So next, you want to go, after you have those lower pages, like your cart pages and all those kind of money-making pages, let's go to the entry money. So we've optimized the end. Now let's start optimizing the beginning. You guys work really hard on getting traffic to your website. Now we want to make that traffic do some more work for you on your own website. So start looking at your landing pages for your highest converting traffic, and landing pages also for your most expensive traffic if you're doing PPC. Here's an example of a homepage test run by the Brewers Market. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit more on the copy. I want to focus on the headline and in this copy here. You'll see the cross-sell over here remains the same. So here's a closer look. We have in our A version the who would have thought a microbrewery could fit in your home, with a whole butt ton of copy right down here kind of explaining more about it. And then we have just a simple slogan with the best damn beer they've ever tasted, and a lot less descriptive copy on this homepage. Now, who thinks kind of the more descriptive copy, and also I want to put this in mind, this was run during the holiday season, during the Christmas season, so keep that in mind too when you're thinking about traffic sources. Who thinks the A version wins? Just raise your hand. We have maybe a handful of people who think this one wins. And then who thinks the best damn beer they've ever tasted? Yeah, and you guys are 100% right. So here's the results from this test. They ran this test twice through the holiday season, mainly because they had a lot of friction in their company. One big thing and one really difficult part about testing is getting your company to sign off on it if you're working for a larger company. They don't really either like the headlines, or you have the highest paid person's opinion who's just like, no, they hated this best damn beer I've ever tasted. They just hated it, absolutely did not want to implement it. But with results like this, with an 18.7% lift in sales between their testing period of November 22nd through December 15th, and then they ran the same test again to show that it's not a fluke, with a 60.7% increase from December 16th to December 23rd. So those are great results, and after you start seeing this type of data, it's really irrefutable. Your company will have to, or maybe anybody you report to will have to make these implemented changes. This is run by the Brewers Market, and they did this in-house using Google Website Optimizer. And I want to point something out right now. For everybody that's testing in here or is thinking about testing, Google Website Optimizer was the only, and I say was the only free tool out there. But on August 1st, it doesn't exist anymore. They put it within Google Analytics as something called content experiments. So if you're using Google Analytics, which everybody has to be using unless you have like a paid tool that you're doing for your analytics, you can go into actually the content side on that left bar, and then right at the bottom you'll see this new link for experiments where you can run different A/B tests. But they really kind of took a lot out from what Google Website Optimizer originally had. So it's a shame you guys missed out on Google Website Optimizer, but content experiments can still kind of get it done. So now that we've started at the bottom, we've gone through our checkout pages, we've really optimized our entrance pages, now let's start testing the conversion path. So we should start looking at our search results, our category pages, our product pages. If you're running a content site, maybe your story, like the different pages your stories are on, anywhere that people have to start really digging through to get to that final conversion. You want to start optimizing there. So this is like the last step in kind of your testing process. So here's a cool product page. And I think this one's actually a really fun test, and I love the results, and I also love people's faces when they see the results to this one. Who here thinks they're pretty savvy in terms of kind of landing page optimization? Even though this is a product page, who's pretty savvy landing page wise? All right, so do you mind if I single you out real quick? Sure. Yes. All right, so of these two pages, which one do you think wins? Actually, before you do, I want to see hands. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. I don't want any bias. All right. Who thinks the one with the left, there's a left-hand nav. This is all that changes is the left-hand nav right here. Who thinks left-hand nav wins in terms of conversion rate? Okay. Who thinks right? Like the what with nothing there. Okay. All right. You can open your eyes again. And what's your name? Just wanted. Spencer. Spencer. Thanks so much, Spencer. I appreciate this. Which one do you think wins? And I want you to tell me why.
I'd say the no navs, because when we take them directly to a landing page, we want to basically give them one option.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's add a cart or a lead gen or something like that, I've always understand that you just give them one option. That's all you want them to do. You'll get more conversions that way.
Okay, yeah. And I thought that too, and almost everybody in this room thought that as well. But this one was kind of a really cool test where there was no significant winner. There was no winner in this. And actually around 80% of your tests will come up blank. I believe Avinash, I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not going to say it, but he's this really amazing web analytics just genius. And he's gone on record saying that when you're running A/B tests, you'll probably see around between a 75-80% kind of null ratio where you ran the test and you didn't see significant enough results. And the silver lining there is you're testing the wrong stuff. Start looking at different pages or different elements. That's really the information you can pull out of that. And so when you run into one of these, which I always used to say was just worst case scenario, you put some time and effort into it, you didn't see a significant lift, you know one thing, that whatever element you were testing on your site is, it's fine as it is, or people just really don't care about it. In this case, since it wasn't a dedicated landing page, and what you were talking about in terms of if you're doing any sort of PPC work with a dedicated landing page, you definitely want to reduce that navigation. But in this case, it was a page that people were navigating through, and navigation at that point just wasn't a big deal to them. They found their product, and they would purchase it whether there was left nav or not. And this was run by? Yeah, around 75-80% of your tests will actually run at a no significant winner. That's kind of like maybe not your tests, but it really is kind of a standard that you're going to be running into this a lot. So if you are putting a testing program together, make sure to have in that proposal you're doing kind of a risk management section where you're talking about, we will run into these, but as long as you're doing everything kind of by the books, you're not going to be losing money or losing out there. So it's definitely one of the downfalls. So now let's start to test smart again and start choosing the right elements. So we just went through how to choose the right pages in terms of picking through the funnel where you start with the money, then you kind of go to entry, and then you connect those paths. So now let's look at choosing the right element. So here's different elements. This is a horrible image. But like maybe an overlay button, whether it be button copy, button color, button gradient, button style, different form fields, headers of forms. Here's kind of the top 9 elements that people work on, being copy, images, buttons, trust elements, forms, navigation, search boxes, videos, and overlays. Overlays, light box, pop-ups, whatever you want to call them. That's what I mean by overlay. If I had hours and hours to show you guys more tests and kind of go through each element, I'd go through each one of these, but I picked, I believe, my top 3. And this one's a fun little overlay test in here. So the only difference between the A and the B version is actually the width of the overlay. They still have that semi-transparent background where you can still see the page as a teaser. And here you have it just kind of a short, to the point, not a lot of space on the sides. All copy and everything remains the same. And here, they just spread the width out a little bit. They were trying to test whether teasing the page more versus not teasing more would increase in conversions. And so they're trying to increase their leads for their email list. Which one do you think, who thinks A, the smaller overlay, wins out? And B? Oh, good, you guys are all still voting too, so this is awesome. Normally I have to be like, and who's still voting at this point, and then it's, ugh. But yeah, thanks everybody for participating. So, all right, and so actually the winning version was the A version, which most people, only like one person, I think, raised their hand for, 1 or 2 people, and that was this guy over here. And actually, what was going through your head when you picked that?
Me?
Well, the guy behind you, the gentleman behind you was, he answered on that side, so I wanted to see what he was thinking.
See a little bit back there, but intrigued by that, and I wanted more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other one, I couldn't see enough to grab me.
Mm-hmm. And this saw an 8.8% increase in email opt-ins. This was run with the help of Waterfunnel for Favecraft, using Favecraft's own kind of overlay pop-up technology. And overlays are great to test on your site. There's so much data that will show that an overlay versus an inline form in terms of lead generation and completed form fills, you'll see about a 10x increase. So if you think overlays are too intrusive and they're maybe against your own kind of like moral marketing ethos, forget it and run this test. Run a test of just overlay versus inline, and you will see, I guarantee, this is the one thing I will guarantee saying that, I guarantee you will see an increase. I can't say to how much, but you will see an increase based on this. It's not as it's disruptive, but it's not as intrusive as I think we all perceive with kind of that marketing hat on that we generally have. What's up?
How about the overlays on squeeze pages?
Overlays on squeeze pages, I think themselves, squeeze pages. Oh, so he asked, what about testing an overlay on a squeeze page? And I think in terms of overlays on squeeze pages, you might be kind of shooting yourself in the foot there because you already have that really targeted traffic. And if you're doing a good enough squeeze page, it should be doing the job of an overlay itself there.
Justin,
Yes.
are you going to talk about technologies for overlays?
Actually, I can tell you. So he wanted to know about technologies for overlays, and I don't have a bit in this talk about the different technologies, but I can talk to you after and give you some company names and some different tools. There's some pretty cool ones out there that allow you to follow like the user path and set, for instance, after 4 page views, hit them with an overlay. We have a really cool test on WhichTestWon where if they had a particular path that a user would take on the site, and they would qualify that person as a person that wouldn't buy in that session. So what they did is after they hit all those pages, or that number, or whatever their choice was for that, they hit them with a lead gen pop-up so they could at least market to them later to try and bring them back. But they were able to identify non-buyers by online behavior, and then we're able to use different triggers for different pop-up tools, which I can show you some of those later on. So another cool test here, we're focusing on, just remember, elements to test, and this is a trust element on a lead generation form. So this is just a straight lead gen form. And the only, there's 2 differences, I guess you can say. The submit button here, and submit's one of the worst things you can use as a call to action on any form. That's something you should try testing almost immediately. But here, it gets cut down, the button gets cut down a little bit, but they added a trustee certified privacy. So this isn't a multivariate test, this is an A/B test, so I can't say which one really won out, but if I was going to pick of the elements that had the most influence, I'm really focusing on the trust element itself. I think that this is kind of negligible, and different multivariate technologies can tell you actually how much that influence click-throughs. And so who thinks, this side being the A version, the non-trustworthy form, not to lead anybody on a goose chase in what they're choosing, but who thinks kind of the no trust signal or insignia increased leads? Does anybody in this room think that? 2 brave souls. 3. All right, 4. So I can assume then that everybody else thinks this one's the winner. All right? Yes. Okay. So everybody but 4 people were wrong. This actually saw a 12.6% increase in completed form fills at a 99.8% confidence level. The brand wished to remain anonymous. This was run by Location 3 Media using, again, Google Website Optimizer, which no longer exists. But if I were to kind of analyze this test, and we're going to actually have a fun little session at the end where I'm going to ask you guys to analyze some test results, so it's going to be awesome. I'd say really it's a lead generation form. It's a form fill, and you're already having people have to worry about if it's a certified, like if let's look back, the trustee certified. That trustee is normally used within carts. And so that's the complete wrong place to have a trustee certification. Maybe if you had a "we respect your privacy" kind of in italics underneath, that might have helped out. But you have to remember, think in context when you're putting these types of seals on your site, and make sure you're not kind of making people go, well, should I trust them? Why do I need that there? I'm filling out a form. Okay, and so this is another fun test with a required versus optional form field. The only change on here, and this one looks a little smaller, but they're the same size on the page. I just screwed up making the sizes. The only difference is all the information is optional here, whereas it's required here. So for required, who thinks required wins in terms of completed forms? Okay, 2. Optional? Okay, so the winner actually was the optional form fields, and they actually saw a higher lift in quality leads, which I find unbelievable. At first I found unbelievable, but after you kind of think it through, it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, you see a 31% lift in leads. This is run by Sterling Lead It in association. Did this in-house using testing technology Unbounce. And what they saw was rather than kind of strong-arming somebody into that email address, because email is really kind of our currency when we're trying to get free stuff online or get information. Like, that's us as a consumer. That's our currency. We give that away. We expect something. And sometimes we just don't want to give it out. Maybe it's something we're mildly interested in, but we're not sure if we want to give that information out. So rather than strong-arming people for their email addresses and requiring people to either put their Yahoo or Hotmail account that they don't use, or that don't spam me at goaway.com, they actually just had people who wouldn't fill in the email address, and then they could recognize right away that they're not a qualified lead. And they were able to, as they did a list scrub, and there's different tools you can do to look at kind of the different the email addresses you're bringing in, which is for a different presentation. But this test is just, I think, a phenomenal idea, and one that's pretty simple to run on your back end that you could do fairly simply. That I think you'd see some pretty great results if you haven't done that yet. So I showed you my 9 top elements. You might be asking yourself, well, how do we choose which elements to pick? And I saw a presentation at the Conversion Conference recently where this guy from Conversion IQ, Keith Hagan, was really saying, don't throw spaghetti at the wall. You may see some conversion lifts by going, oh, I changed a button from blue to red. But unless you have that why and have kind of scalable learnings that you can use on your site, you're really not going to get a whole lot out of testing. You might see that initial lift, but test results are degenerative. You're not always going to have that lift forever. We all know that. So the more learnings you can get from this, and that'll help with your procedure, the better. And that's why you should start testing smarter rather than just throwing different tests at the wall. So here's kind of the 3 steps you should be taking in order to really start selecting an element. Create a clearly defined goal for your page. Hypothesize how you can meet this goal. And then develop a methodology to prove the hypothesis. So here's an example. This is DIY Themes site. They had a particular goal, which was to increase blog opt-ins. That's their inline form right there. Okay. Their hypothesis was that adding social proof will increase opt-ins. Here's their methodology. Here's what they did. They added a join 14,752 others and get free updates. They didn't change the precursor text, didn't change the call to action or the size of the button, didn't change the headline. The only thing they added on here, and let's put it again in context, it's just right here. Okay? They only changed a smidgen of text. And they were trying to push that social proof that a lot of people read this, you want to read it too. Who thinks the social proof side, the 14,752 others, increased form fills, completed form fills? Raise them high, raise them high, raise them high. Who thinks this one did? This being the control variation. Come on, only like half the room voted. That's fine. Because assuming the people that didn't raise their hand meant to raise their hand here, they would have been right if I had the end of my slide. Right here, the one that wins is the get email updates. It's free. Why is that not there? It ought to be. That's really not good. I don't have internet connection. I just go on to my site and I do it. What I'll do is I'll send people the results to this. It won substantially. It was in the double digits of a win. And they really thought that I don't even get to give my rationale because I can't even show you how it went. But the rationale by the actual person running the test on DIY Themes, he believed that 14,000 just wasn't enough to be talking about. I mean, think of all the social media sites and the numbers that they have. You have granted, Facebook came out and said many of their accounts are duplicates, like into the millions, are duplicates or fakes. But they still are close to what, a billion users? That's a number you can start touting. 14,000 just simply wasn't enough. If they wanted to test, if they came up with that hypothesis for a loser and then wanted to try, this wouldn't be the most, I guess, moral way to do it. Make up a number, make up a bigger number and see how it works. That would have proven that rationale right there. If that was the case, if they ran an iteration, they could have proven that right away. But their speculative analysis was that this just wasn't a big enough number to entice people. So here's tip number 3, which is segment your audience. So maybe you don't want to do just a split test on all the traffic coming in. You want to test smart, again, as I've been telling you pretty much all talk. You want to start really honing in on maybe their geolocation. So say, for instance, you only want to run tests on people coming from maybe the US, or maybe France, or maybe even like the northwest of the US. You can start doing different geolocation tests. So people are in the US, they come here, and they get the test cases. They are into the split test at this point, leaving out everybody else that's not pertinent to your test, which is great, because then you can actually use smaller sample sizes in these cases based on the different math on whether your technology tool is using a z-test or a t-test. So you can do things like geolocation, device. So I mean, device is huge. Are they on the mobile device? Are they on an iPad? Do you consider iPad to be mobile in this case? Do you just use a regular web browser for them, or do you develop an iPad app? Different devices you can actually drill down on will help you increase your conversions. The traffic source itself, whether it be coming from search traffic, referral traffic, different email campaigns you may be running, whether it be that type of direct traffic coming in. New versus returning. This is pretty huge, especially for people who run any sort of membership sites or have a particular blog. Like one test I could see right away from a new versus returning. If they're a returning visitor, they don't get hit with an overlay that says sign up. That seems pretty insincere. That, oh, you're back again, sign up for our newsletter that you already are a part of. That's a perfect test you can start running right away to make sure that, one, you don't need to have a test running too long because you're getting the proper test audience. And then you can start looking at site interaction, like your site path. If they're search result viewers, you want to do a search result test page. Only people that have gone through a page clicking the search button will be a part of this test. So here's an example of a geolocation test. We have 2 home pages, so they start on the home page. It's by Karmaloop. They're a apparel site that ships all over the place, all over the world. And what they did was they added a call-out banner right at the top where it says it would recognize your location based on your IP, and it would say Karmaloop ships to insert country based on your IP. Best deal and fastest international shipping. So they used a technology that allowed them to recognize this, one, and then implement it on their site based on who's hitting their site. And then here's just a standard Karmaloop page. It doesn't matter if you're wherever you're coming from. So they ran a split test here where they actually saw a 2.43% increase in sales from their homepage. So this is people hitting their homepage, and because they added this call out, making sure, one, that if someone's going to go through the process of picking items on your site, they're actually going to get shipped to them. So they know that right away. They don't even have to look for where they're being shipped from. And two, you're having this kind of this nice little call out right at the beginning that connects them to your site almost immediately. They're like, oh, they shipped to Mexico. I'm in Mexico. That's great. And this was run the agency Monetate using the Monetate testing technology. This is a cool little new versus returning user test that Dell ran. And so this is about this is actually a new visitor versus somebody who actually went through the purchase process. So they took anybody that finished the purchasing process and then returned to the website maybe the next day. So this is just the standard homepage you'd see if you were without the new test case. And say now you purchased a product, they show you this with a welcome back telling you your delivery details, with other things such as contact technical support, browse your PC and home services, as well as buy accessories for your Dell. So even have that push for a new sale, maybe a laptop case, maybe a new monitor. And so what they saw here, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory based on how I've phrased this, was the winner. And they were going by increase in satisfaction, which is kind of like a fluffy metric. I don't know what they counted as satisfaction. I think it might have just been interaction with the page rather than hitting the home page and then bouncing, because the people aren't, they've already purchased, they don't need to purchase anything new. But they saw a 10% increase in satisfaction. This was ran by Dell using their in-house marketing team, which I have to say, they have probably one of the greatest testing environments and testing culture in in industry right now. I've met their head of testing and a lot of the other people involved with it, and they are testing juggernauts. They are testing all the time, trying new things and trying to implement new strategies on their site. If you're hitting Dell, if you're going to a Dell site, you're likely hitting a test page while you're there. They have an intense schedule, and they use Adobe Test and Target for this. All right, so we have a site interaction test here, and this was run by LinkedIn. And this one is a very kind of advanced test that I doubt people who are just getting into testing would be able to do. One, because they probably don't have the traffic to get the conclusive results that this gets, because I mean, LinkedIn is just, they get a lot of traffic, so they can do some really cool tests. And so what they did here was they would recognize where you were on the page. So say if, if you don't have a LinkedIn premium account, it says like 5 people viewed your profile and you click that and it shows like 3, and you're like, you can know everybody that views your profile if you sign in. So they would recognize if you came from that spot on LinkedIn versus maybe your messages versus InMail, and you'd get a different promotion based on that with putting your now site traffic in context. They also took a look at your what industry you were a part of, as well as your level at the industry. So they took all those things into consideration when they created these new callouts on here. So this was the actual standard page where they used probably my least favorite thing in the world, stock photos, where they use these nice stock photos up here to kind of push their LinkedIn premium account. Whereas here, they have the really just the standard callout. For this one, who are they? It was a person that came from an InMail upsell on the site. And I can't tell from the copy what they were. Oh, they were salesmen. So we have Sales Navigator in here. So they're taking in the fact that they know this person's a salesman and that they are looking to use InMail. And they immediately have, basic kind of layout stays the same. They cut the page itself so it's a little higher above the fold. All your information's there rather than kind of going through these checklists. And again, obviously, based on how I'm talking about this test, that was the winner with a 20% lift in premium subscription sales. So granted, that was a huge test to run, probably took a lot of thinking, had to get like the algorithm right, had to get all the copy ready to be automated, but 20% lift in premium subscription sales on LinkedIn, that's massive. That is a lot of money that they just put into their pockets on there that they were just leaving on the table. And testing was able to show that you are leaving this on the table. We need to be running this site-wide. So 4. This is what I like to call innovation and then iteration. This is kind of my ultimate, I guess, testing tip to do when you're getting into the testing process. You want to innovate to find a winner. So you want to really have apples and oranges there. You want to upset the status quo, try some new stuff on your site. After you have your winner, after that's run through, iterate to win bigger, to win more. Find out now, like this is the design that my users really related to and really kind of converted better with. How do we make that design better? And then kind of taking those methods of how to pick different elements that we talked about earlier to kind of find out if it's a Golden Delicious, a Granny Smith, or I think that's like a Fuji. So here's a nice little innovation test. This is run by Baked and Delicious, and the traffic here is mainly coming from people, is direct traffic from ads on TV. It's an as seen on TV product. So we have this nice little landing page here, pretty short, pretty simple call to action, subscribe today. Same navigation, similar headers, more stuff here at the top. And then a longer page, kind of a more intense get to know about the publication and then purchase landing page. Who thinks, and again, this is their landing page, so this is the first page people see. Who thinks this guy, the A version, wins? Let's get him up high. I haven't done this in a while. I've been telling you the answers too much lately. All right? And who thinks this guy right here? Okay. Well, normally, I think I've shown a lot of tests that are counterintuitive, so I know some of you are probably thinking he's going to pull a trick. But this one did win out. It's a 17.2% lift in sales, as well as a 31.4% just lift in clicks on there. So if they were able to increase clicks as well as sales. This is run for Baked and Delicious, which I believe is from a piece of Eagle Moss Publishing or Publications. This was run with the help of House of Kaizen using Visual Website Optimizer. And here is the thing that kills me about this test. Remember when I was talking about earlier how it's really tough to get a testing culture and it's really tough to sell people because you have the hippo's opinion? This test, even with this data, was never made live, ever. They saw they were leaving money on the table, and just because they couldn't convince somebody, maybe they may have had more stock in that older design, maybe it was an idea of theirs. Whatever the case may be, they knowingly left money on the table, which is horrible. And it's something inside me dies every time that happens on there because people really put a lot of effort into this, and it's really upsetting. But now that we see that nice little innovation test, and let's say they actually let this happen, what would you guys do? For some of the things we talked about today, I want to hear maybe a couple ideas of what you would try iterating next. So I want to just take a look at the page. This is now your new standard. You had your apple and your orange won out. Now, are we going to get like a Valencia, or are we getting a navel, or blood orange? What are we going to pick? So can somebody here just tell me what's one test they'd run on this page? And keep in mind, again, it's direct traffic from TV ads. Spencer, you can go second.
Headline.
The headline? Okay. I think there's a bunch of different ideas you can use with the headline. You could, try changing it, maybe try a different color, maybe even the same piece up there, but that's a really light color, and granted, the projection is going to make it tough to see, but that might, just color itself there might actually make it stand out more, or even just trying either new copy itself, or new sizes, or different types of things you could work on the headline. Spencer.
I would change it to more test. The only clickable link would be the subscribe today button. So get rid of the nav, also the lower right, subscribe today, and get these free extra gifts. Just leave that as plain graphic. So the only clickable link is the subscribe.
Yeah, so what Spencer had said, if you couldn't hear it in the back, was he was saying he should just get rid of all nav at the top, make sure this is the really only clickable clickable button on there to push them, to really kind of get them into the funnel right there and get them to move forward. Yes?
You said it was never tested live. How was it tested?
Well, it was never made live for all 100% of their traffic. They did test it. It was live on their site, but they never implemented it across the board. Okay. Oh, and I'm supposed to repeat the questions, and I forgot I did. He asked how did they do the testing if it never went live, and that was just my own semantics being all off. And maybe I like threes, so I want a third kind of what would you do to iterate. Yes?
Change the product image so it can use the human face.
And yeah, that's great. We've seen a lot of tests where people have tried have seen a lot of success by adding the human touch. There's things to keep in mind when you're adding pictures of people. One, where they're looking. We've seen you can try different areas where if they're looking at the button that people have seen, if people just follow the eyes, it's almost like arrows at that point. Also, if you're using stock photos, that might not be the best thing to try. Maybe kind of like use like a Joe Schmo, or even kind of do your own photography there. Like don't go to like, Shutterstock or any of those places to purchase those. Maybe see if you can get your own images and get somebody to sign off, because people see the same stock images all over the place. I think I saw recently an image. I was just looking at stock photos. I don't know why. And I went on a website and I was like, I know those guys. I saw them. I could have purchased that picture too. So all right, so here's my fifth tip, which is measure meticulously. Like how you measure everything is, in A/B testing, really kind of is your make or break. You need to make sure you're hitting things, making sure it's statistically significant, as well as reaching a particular confidence rate over the right period of time. So I hate using a lot of text, but this is important. The metrics that identify a completed test, and that will also tell you how long your test is going to be going, is your conversion lift, the conversion rate, your lift percentage. And I know it's tough. You actually have to estimate what your lift percentage will be while you're constructing a test, and that's to make sure you can have the right idea for a test timeline. Your unique visits, the number of variations, and your time to completion. So recognizing a test complete is you need to pull the traffic and your conversion stats. And so this is based off of a z-test, this math stuff up here that I put in here. I'm not going to go really too much into that. I don't think you guys want me to. But you need to make sure it's statistically significant. And this is kind of, I know like Visual Website Optimizer uses the z-test. Some people base it off of the standard t-test. But there's other different algorithms that different technologies will use. I just gave an example of a z-test if you want to try it yourself. And I know I see faces that are the same as this guy right here, right now, so I'm sorry. What's up?
Can you comment about Visual Website Optimizer?
I can't really like officially comment on anything with them. We're a publication and we're kind of Swiss neutral with everybody. Yeah, so I can't officially kind of comment on them. But we do have on our website a checklist to look at all the different, we have 47 different testing technologies listed on our website, as well as a checklist for helping you select it. So again, keeping with that Swiss neutral kind of mentality. And so instead of looking at the math, you could let your testing platform decide. And this is kind of like, I'm really sorry about this really awful image. It's really grainy and gross. But when you're running different tests, in this case it's a test just with 2 different variations, and your testing technology will tell you when it's complete, what the confidence level it is, what the significance, if it's significant or not. And those are things that can just be done automatically. So factors that impact significance is your level of statistical confidence. So if whatever your confidence rate is, you can go for generally 95% is what you want to aim for. And what confidence level means is that there's a 5% chance you're committing a type 1 error, which is it could be due to chance. So there's a 5% chance it gets left out, but 5% is pretty much based on the industry okay. I've seen people go as low as 90%, but just keep that in mind whenever you're keeping your records, which you should be doing very well when you're running tests, that this is a 90% confidence rate. That means there's a higher chance that this conversion lift wasn't from the tested element. And it'll go up to as high as 99.9%. You can never have a 100% confidence rate. Doesn't exist. How it breaks out is you would go in plus or minus infinity based off of the standard deviation for people who are mathies. Oop, I went too fast. So you now start looking at the number of visitors that have actually been tested. So the actual sample size. The difference in conversion rate you want, like I said, it takes much more traffic to have like a nuanced change. So a 1% change, you're going to need a lot more traffic in order to get statistically significant results than you would for something that's say a 20% change. You have to make sure that it's not due to chance, and that 1% lift requires a lot more traffic, a much bigger sample size. And the number of variations you're testing. If you add a different variation to a page, you're actually going to see a lift in the at least required traffic rise exponentially. So it's always to the power of whatever element. So whatever traffic you have, if it's 2 elements, is squared. And if you're adding a 3rd element, it's going to go into the cubed region for how much traffic you need. So it just grows exponentially. Here's some tips to reach significance in a timely fashion for some of you that might not have the sample, like the actual traffic to get there. Keep it simple on your site. Only one change at a time. You'll need the least amount of traffic for that. Start with the pages with the most lift potential. So kind of those pages with the form field or your carts, those are the ones that are going to see kind of the biggest lift potential right away and could see that jump, that's within like the double digits that would require less traffic. Select a realistic confidence level. Don't go for 99.9% right away. I know you probably really want to. You want to be as sure as possible, but start with the 95. Even if I know some people would shoot me for saying this, but even go down to 90. Just be okay with it and know that these learnings may not be that scalable. So finally, and this will be the kind of last part of the presentation, is interpreting your results. And this is a more interactive portion again. And just warning, interpreting test results, it's not an exact science, but as you're running tests, you get a lot better at it. Testing will tell you what is going on the site, and as you get better at interpretation, you can start figuring out why. So let's look at some, this is an email that was being sent out. They're both HTML emails, but this one's a more rich HTML email versus really text-heavy email that was going out. And this is actually one of our email testing award winners too. So the content on here stays the same. It's the same offer. This one just includes, a button, product shot on the right-hand side, whereas this is a more note. It's more like a note to the actual reader. Who thinks the text-only version wins out? And this is I believe it's some kind of, it's a B2B software suite of some kind. They wish to remain anonymous, but kind of keeping that in mind, I wanted to give you some more information of who'd be reading this. Who in this room thinks the newsletter kind of style, the note, wins out? Okay. And who thinks the B, the rich HTML? Raise them up. Up. Okay. And to many people's surprise, it was actually the text version that did win out, where they saw a 303.8% increase in sales and a 194.51% increase in actual traffic to the site. And this was sent to an opt-in list of 100,000, split 50-50, sent on the same day at the same time. She asked what kind of audience? Why do I get so close when people ask questions? She asked what was the audience? Yeah, it was a B2B audience.
Okay, so it could actually be a matter of price.
Yeah, it could be. There's a lot of different factors, and this is where I was going to bring it to. Was why. So please go ahead, and I'll.
If you're reading a B2B audience, you're going to be reading on a BlackBerry. Might be easy to remember.
Yep, you'll be seeing it on a BlackBerry. Also, if you are using Outlook and you're using a preview pane, you get this box shot, but you're kind of missing out on the actual call to action with it being on the right-hand side. And also another thing to think of, mobile-wise, this is horrible in terms of mobile optimization. Your call to action's all the way to the right. I mean, it's a nightmare. So those things are things you definitely have to keep in mind with what's the device your audience is using. If it is a BlackBerry, because of the B2B audience, this text-heavy, text-centric email will work. And also, if you're going to have an HTML email like this, maybe try and at least optimize it best practices for mobile. I don't know. Just mobile email is absolutely essential to be a part of your strategy in your email campaigns. You have to keep those things in mind that people are reading that more and more, and it's just going to keep growing. Anybody else have any ideas why this one might have won? Yeah.
When you said it was B2B and text, everybody probably can't see it, but the first line says, "Dear customer, my name is so-and-so. I'm your relationship manager." And if it's a B2B one, they're probably getting an email from a relationship manager, or they're getting an ad
Yep.
sent to their box. And I think those are two really different experiences.
To that point, it says dear customer. If you've got it somewhat personalized, usually personalized, the next type of personalization.
Yeah, what both of them said was one, that this side looks more just like an advertisement, whereas you're getting a personal relationship manager. The copy they use there is much more enticing for the user, as well as, I forgot what she said. Can you say it again? Oh yeah, and it's also not personalized at the top. Yep. So you have Dear Customer at the top. They could have tried another personalization piece where it would said, Dear John, Dear Joe, Dear whoever, which we've seen a lot of great successes with on WhichTestWon. There was a test run by A. Weber on their blog, and they used personalization in the subject line, and great results. I loved it. It was a great test. So then we have another one here, and this will be the last one, and then I could probably do questions really quickly, but I've been kind of like getting them as they're coming along as well. So a form step indicator. If you have a multi-step form, this is a perfect test to start right away. Okay, if you're strong armed into a multi-step form, try this out if you don't have a form indicator. So you have one, everything stays the same on here, just one without a form indicator versus one that tells you you're on step 1 and then there's step 2 coming up. Who thinks this side wins out? The no form indicator. And I know we're almost done. We're almost done, I promise. Okay? And how about this one? And you guys are spot on there. You have a 8% lift in completed forms at a 92% confidence rate. This was run by Dell. I think I showed another Dell test too. I'm a big fan of Dell testing. I don't think that's a secret. I was run in-house using Adobe Test and Target. Now, why? I actually want to pick on you because you're one of the first people to raise their hand on the form indicator. So why do you think this one increased conversion rate?
I think it just has more trust. It's got built-in expectation to it.
So he had said that it has more trust, and you kind of have that expectation of, okay, there's one more step I have to go to. All right? And anybody else want to shed? I think that's kind of the main thing that's going on here. You get your time commitment right away. I run a testing workshop, and I was in Chicago, and I was doing a site audit for somebody. And it was for a Kellogg site, actually. It was when they were doing their, if you eat, like, here's a diet plan by Kellogg, tell us, like, your weight and all these things, and then we'll tell you, like, if you eat Kellogg's for this many days, you'll lose X pounds. And at first it said that it was like a 3-step process. It ended up being like 9. I go through it thinking, okay, 3 steps, I'm done. And then I had to get an email and confirm that email and then go through that email further. And it was just, when I was going through that, I just looked at the woman and I go, and you really wonder why this isn't converting? Like, are you serious? You're saying 3 steps and you're giving us 3 times that. Be very transparent with your audience. This is a great idea for a test if you have a multi-step form on your site. That being said, I am Justin Rondeau, and if you want to dive deeper into testing, I run a full-day advanced workshop coming this week in Boston on August 17th, and we'll be back here in New York, October 24th. We have some pretty cool attendees that show up to these things. It's a lot of fun. We also have a cocktail party afterwards, which is pretty sweet too. And join our newsletter. It's free. You get an email from me and a nice new test to look at to help inspire you and really get testing on the top of your mind and to pass around the office, be like, we need to be doing these things. Thank you. Again, Justin Rondeau, Chief Testing Evangelist and Editor at WhichTestWon. That's my phone number. I love phone calls. I love talking. So call me. And call me maybe. I don't know. Is that song around? Or you can email me at justinr@WhichTestWon. If you have any questions, I think there's like a couple minutes. We can do them. If not, I will hang out with you. I think we have a half hour. So.
You talked about overlays earlier versus a pop-up. I mean, they're obviously both pop-ups, but
Yep.
one where it grays out the background and one where it might be like warning, like, stay on page or leave page. Do you have any test results there?
We do have different. I don't think we have any people that have done a kind of that gray out a test on the gray out, whether using it or not, or kind of. I don't have any tests putting those against each other. But that actually, I think I think there'd be it's a really good test to run, where you could definitely. I think there would be some pretty good results from that. I think the gray out I think the standard right now, a lot of people are doing the gray out. You might stand out more if you try it without it. As people run these tests, they start creating their own best practices. People start copying them. You become a part of the noise, so you have to innovate again. Oh, could you go to that mic right in the center? I'm really super sorry about that. I'm just getting pointed at.
On your very first test where you had the white space versus the extra cell, would your suspicion be that, did you conclude that it was maybe that it was more of an interruption and took them more out of the consumer mindset?
I think what it was on that test was the product just wasn't applicable to the users. Or to the actual customer, because it was the one I used was a blouse, and not everybody's going to need a blouse. And I think the test would be a lot different if they use a dynamic insertion tool. And a lot of different e-commerce providers have that capability.
Something really related to the product.
Yeah, it's related to the person, because just throwing something in there, being like, oh, this is product of the week. It's like, well, I don't care. So having that white space it also cleaned up the clutter as well. So just overall was just a good move. I'll repeat. If you have a computer, I'll repeat whatever you say.
Can you tell us more about your advanced workshop?
Okay, yeah. For my advanced workshop, it's an 8-hour day, and I go through the test identification and interpretation process all the way to test rollout. So it's kind of going through different ideas, kind of best practices, how to get a testing team together, and then doing an audit at the end and working with people to have them leave with an actual plan for when they go back to the office of what to start testing on their site. Cool. That was kind of self-promotional. I'm sorry.
Any good source of information for benchmarking, measure what's the typical bounce rate that we should target, things like that?
There are a lot of great blogs out there that you could check out that would have that information. I know on our site I hate to keep promoting myself, but we do that research on our site. We have white papers written about those things.
You were going to mention overlay technologies. Could you do that now?
I had to look them up because I forgot their names. There was one, oh gosh, what is, it's just escaping me right now. I will, if you want to talk to me in a little bit, I'll have that info. I just know I need to go to my bookmarks.
Hi, my name is Ikwanya Ginyo. I'm with drjays.com, a multi-brand apparel retailer. And my question is regarding outliers. So when you're running a test with a very limited size audience, such as like geo-targeting for smaller countries, how do you understand the impact of outliers, and how can you minimize the impact in terms of assessing the total results?
Yeah, and that's when you're, say for instance, taking your example, if we were doing geo-targeting for like a smaller country that may not be able to hit the traffic level that we'd be able to get results from, we actually wouldn't be able to run that test. You need to have, you can kind of fudge it a little bit, but you're not going to, it's really, I guess the best way to explain kind of what's going on there is like, for a small sample size, you're going to get small conclusions. So it will require you to have to think of a different way to actually split it up there, because the outliers would affect it so much.
Sure. Well, I guess just to delve a little bit deeper, so we're actually using a platform, and I don't know if it's a shortcoming of the platform itself, but it seems like when we're targeting specific countries, sometimes if we have, like, say, an AOV, particularly, like the AOVs might swing very far, and then the reporting tool is actually giving us the results set, but we come to question whether that actually is accurately due to the test.
Yeah, I'd say it's not. Those outliers will be affecting it. I actually had a great time at dinner with a person who worked at eBay, specifically in the section that does the auctions for cars, and he's trying to put together an in-house like testing platform, and he and I sat forever trying to deal with outliers, and it was just, it's something that in those cases you're not getting the right results. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you guys so much. I have cards if you guys want to hang out and talk to me for a little bit. I'll be here till Monday, so we'll have good times. All right, thanks a lot.